AFTV, I've got Manel with me. We've just watched the game, 1-0 loss at Villa Park. Where do I start? In fact, let me get your overall thoughts first.
I mean, judging the whole game, I think obviously we dominated the game. I wouldn't go as far as saying we battered them because I don't think that's the case. I don't think we created as many chances as I've seen some people talking about. Did we create enough chances to go on and win the game? Yes, I would agree with that. But ultimately, was it a battering performance? No, I wouldn't say that. I actually gave Villa some credit as well, to be honest, for as much as some people might disagree with me, because they went and they dominated Manchester City and they actually held on to the win for this game here. Am I upset? Yes. Yeah.
Let me change it up a little bit then, because I'm one of the people that said we had enough chances. Did we have enough openings to batter Aston Villa today?
I think we had enough openings. I think once you structure it like that, then yes, I could agree with you to that extent. But ultimately, those clear-cut chances for me, the only ones that I really see is probably two. It's just two. And I know the game was a 1-0 game, so you could say if we took both of them, we'd win the game. But I mean, nobody ever takes all of their chances all game. So ideally, we would have liked to take one of them, but it just wasn't the case today, man. Look, listen, it's upsetting. I'm touched. I'd be lying if I said I'm not touched, bro. I'm mad touched, man.
It would have been nice to beat them off the back of the way they dominated City. I think that would have been a massive message. But talk to me then. I mean, was the attack a problem today then? Like I insinuated in my fan cam, like I believe standing here right next to you today, or was it deeper than that?
No, 100%. I'll agree with you there, man. It was definitely the attack. Like, overall, the team, I think in the beginning, Watkins was doing quite well against Saliba, but I think the second half, it was a complete dominating performance. And I know that XG might not say it as much, but if you look at just the controlled possession and where the game was played, besides about a 5-minute period for them, it was a completely dominating performance for us. It was those really clear-cut chances that they just weren't there, man. And I know there are certain little things like if Eddie and Nketiah hadn't have stepped forward for that header, but again, I think you got to give credit to Villa. I mean, they've created the most offsides this season as well. So I think it's an upsetting one, obviously, as an Arsenal fan. But at the end of the day, do I think it's like, oh my God, like it's the end of the world? No, it's not that at all. I think you take these ones in your chest, and I'm so eager to see how we bounce back now. For me, this is the big one. This is a big hurdle right now in our step to go and win the trophy, to win the title, which I believe we can do. So this is that hurdle right now. Are we going to overcome that? Like, let's find out, man. Let's bring on Brighton.
Who walks away with credit today out of the players that played a part?
I mean, it's tough to single out any individual. I know a lot of players are going to turn around and say Kai Havertz, and they'll probably even get onto me for this, but I just think he's been so dead for so long, so we're just trying to look to give him credit. Yeah, I think we're just trying to look to give him credit. And Fairs, did he actually impress today somewhat? Yes, but like, I don't think it was to a level where you can turn around and say, you know what, man, he should keep his head held high. Like, I disagree with that. Yeah. I feel like there were certain moments like where he did break in where I want to see Kai Havertz be the guy. People were talking and saying, you know what, it was the right decision to pass to Saka at that moment, but I can't lie. I think he should have banged it. Yeah. I think he should have I want to see Kai Havertz be that guy. If there's one thing I actually give him credit for today, and some people might disagree when we were watching the game live, but it's with that Martinez thing. I see that fight about him. And in the beginning, he's looking like some Bambi on ice. Mm-hmm. I actually see fight about this brother. And I'm saying, you know what, raw. Big up to him for that. But do I think, you know what, his head should be held up high? No, I disagree. I don't think there's any particular player which should have their head held up high.
You make a fair point, because actually on my fan cam, I did give him credit. I think he deserved that credit. But I think that credit is not only because the bar has been dropped so low because of his early performances for us, but because the players around him in attack was so poor. I think it elevated my view of Havertz on that pitch, because Jesus, Saka, Odegaard and Martinelli for me was so poor. And I looked at the attack and Havertz was the only one showing some fight, winning the ball back in midfield to start another attack. So you're right. I think we can't over exaggerate his performance today. But at the same time, slowly but surely, he seems to be finding some level of impact in the team in some way, shape or form. We move on to Brighton next. I say Brighton next because that PSV game, dead rubber, we're already top of the group, and I expect big changes. I actually expect changes in that game to be able to see a bit more of Reece Nelson, see a bit more
Skelly, man. Give me some Ethan and Wari, man. Let me actually see what these youths are about, because so many of our squad, like, there's one thing, I think when you're competing for top four, it's like you get one or two players injured and it's like, all right, top four is done. But we're not competing for top four, man. We're competing for the league. And it's just, what hurts me the most is like, we've actually got such good players. Like, we went out and we finally got that DM to potentially like ease the work rate on Partey. And now my man fucking constantly injured. Like it's mad. It's the same thing with the right back position as well. Like Tomiyasu was doing so well, and right before he goes over to the cup games, it's like he then goes and gets injured. But yeah, 100%, man. For me, that PSV game is it's not a complete write-off because I do still believe in momentum. And if we do lose to them, are we at home? I don't even know. Are we at home or we're actually away? But regardless, it's like 2 L's in a row. It's like that's going to affect momentum in some way. But do I care that much? No. Brighton is the big one, man. That is the big one right now. And I think it's really going to show what our team's about. Like I said earlier to the guys, and I know a lot of people, again, might get onto me based. Last season, for me, I said, you know what? It's going to be 2 years, and I really believe Arteta can win the title. For me, this is the first of those years. Why I didn't write off the season at all, but for me, this is the first year. These young ballers, Saka, Martinelli, these men are in the Champions League. These men will probably want to play that PSV game because they just love playing in the Champions League. And you know what? They're actually having so much fun playing in it. But ultimately, for me, my head tells me that we won't go on and win it this year, but my heart tells me we will. That's the way I'm looking at it.
Because you're in and around football, the last question I'll ask is it's away from the game and it's away from the upcoming fixtures. But you run a YouTube channel called Top Baller.
Yeah.
Subscribe to Top Baller, people.
There you go.
You've played semi-pro football. You're in and around football in your everyday life. January, we can sign one player, a midfielder or a striker. Who would you pick?
I mean, I would actually go with the defender considering Tomiyasu's injured, to be honest with you. And the fact that for
Let's
me...
say Tommy's back in 2 weeks, because that's the rumour.
If Tommy's back in 2 weeks, then I think between midfielder or attacker, I'll choose an attacker. Okay. And I hear a lot of people turn around and tell me a number 9. But for me, I don't think there's any number 9 out there that's like the guy. A lot of people say Ivan Toney. I think Ivan Toney would have been the guy for me when we were a top 4 team. When it was that top 4, even though that was probably a while ago. But it's like, I need a curtain raiser. A lot of people talk about Ozzy Amenia at Napoli. I'm unsure. Do you know who I want? I'm not going to lie. I want Rafael Leão. If we're being serious, that's who I want. I want someone that can come in and when Martinelli's not there, it's replaced. It's almost like for like. And the same thing for Saka. You see Jesus can play as a right winger. I don't think Jesus is our guy number 9, but do I think you need an actual number 9 to win the league? You don't. City done it countless times, playing Foden and rotating up top. Liverpool done it with Firmino up top, and he was constantly dropping in. So for me, I want an attacker. I don't care about a striker. I want a serious attacker. That's what I want.